Hi, I'm Dr. Corinne Wickens, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the conceptual vocabulary tool called Concept Definition Map. And it's very easy to mix up concept maps and concept of definition maps because they're both graphic organizers. They're both dealing with meaning, concept, and they're conceptual vocabulary tools. But you're going to notice that a concept definition map has a much more focused order and examples, ideas, and attributes that are listed than typically a concept map. So the key elements of a concept map is one of the things I really like about it is that it helps graphically, visually represent how we think about vocabulary itself. We don't usually give a dictionary definition of vocabulary. Rather, we say, well, it's like this. It works like this. These are examples of, so that we try to describe it. And so in describing that, the graphic organizer tries to represent those same ideas. So then some key significant parts or elements of a concept definition map is the central, generally the key term is centrally located. There might be an overarching category for the focus concept. So meaning what is it? What does it fall underneath? So it may have a comparison or contrast terms. It often has defining characteristics, properties, or functions, and also examples that provide clear and easy reference for the concept. Now, depending on what's different terms, sometimes it may be hard to come up with a comparison or contrast term. And when that's the case, then just don't incorporate that element. Or if examples aren't the right use, then find something else. Or maybe this tool is not the best, best use as well. So here again, here is a general template of what a general CD map looks like. We have our overarching term. We have what the overarching category. What is the term? What does it fall under? What's it like? The properties, characteristics, or attributes. The comparison term. I'm not sure why it's pulling off of the what is it, because it's usually comparison or contrasting the focal term, and some key examples or illustrations down below. So the first example comes from biology and dealing with invertebrates. And so it has a clear contrast. Opposite is vertebrates. What is a vertebrate? It's an animal. Okay. And invertebrates are characterized by a lack of a backbone and a simple body. So and some key examples that helps us realize what an invertebrate is. Worms. Most of us have seen what a skin of worm, so that helps. Insects, jellyfish, and shellfish. Oh, is that what an invertebrate is? And again, we don't, mathematics often gets forgotten. And so note that we have some other elements that's included here. So we have the overarching category of absolute value is an integer. Characteristics, it's never negative, only asks how far. And then description of what absolute value looks like. And some examples of absolute value is positive 3 equals 3, an absolute value of negative 3 equals 3. And so we have a number line. So then we can see again, representation of absolute value of 3 demonstrates it as 3 spaces, 3 integers from 0, whether it's positive or negative. So counting spaces from 0 in either direction still ends up the same absolute value. And notice how simple, clean, clear the concept map is. So it helps build students' conceptual understanding of a target concept by highlighting comparison terms, defining characteristic traits, and through really clear examples. I really appreciate it for science, social studies frequently, mathematics, Typically, non-humanities and science-based really helps with the concept of definition map health. But it can also be a little more time consuming because you're breaking it down the parts. So having students work in groups and then have different examples around the room would be really effective. Hi, I'm Dr. Corinne Wickens, and I am going to be modeling concept of definition map this morning. And the first example is coming from high school chemistry text on hydrogen bonding. So we have the target concept, overarching category concept. We have a compare contrast idea. Then we have attributes or characteristics, and then examples over here. In this example, we have the concept of hydrogen bonding. And hydrogen bonding as the target concept falls under our overarching category of intermolecular forces. Okay. Now, normally we might have a term that is opposite, and because we often think in opposites, and particularly as we learn new vocabulary. But in this case, it seems more as a comparative. So in this case, the hydrogen bonding is associated or compared with a dipole forces because it deals with intermolecular attraction and bonding. And three characteristics of hydrogen bonding is a large electronegativity differences, it's highly polar, and that the hydrogen atoms that is connected to a electronegative electron is attracted to unshared pair of electrons. Now we have some common examples in our everyday. We have hydrogen fluoride, HF, water, and ammonia. So then when in this case we have the concept definition map to be able to really help break down this idea of hydrogen bonding. This example comes from algebra text, and it deals with linear functions. And so, but mathematics deals with numbers and symbols as much and more so than it does with vocabulary, as well the vocabulary is symbols oftentimes rather than necessarily words. So we needed to adjust our concept definition map to make sense for the discipline. So we still have our target concept, our overarching concept. We have attributes and characteristics. We have our comparison contrast term, but in this case, I also have a graphic symbol. I also have an assembler equation. So in this particular example, our target concept is point slope form. Okay, point slope. And it falls under the overarching concept or category of linear functions. Okay. And attributes or characteristics or functions of a point slope form. It is a linear equation. X1 to comma Y1 is a point on a non-vertical line. Okay. And M is the slope of the line. That would have been had it been understood by now. Its comparative or contrastive term is slope intercept, where the slope is intercepting the y-axis. And the equations as a linear function, and as a linear equation, the equations are really important to remember and recall. So this is an important element that is not standard or typical of a concept definition map. But all of these tools are adjustable and alterable. They're malleable and shapeable to the discipline. So we need to make adjustments. And so you, as teachers, you need to be able to feel free to be able to figure out what's important for your students to know, to be able to comprehend these concepts so then they can understand the discipline. So in this case, we have y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Its equation. And then to help remember that difference here, we have our x-axis and y-axis where they intersect, and then one point on the line, non-vertical line, and another point on the non-vertical line. And so then we're measuring that difference to find the point slope. In this example of a concept definition map, I pull it from a history text, United States history, a common high school text. In this case, our target concept is imperialism. Imperialism is a really important concept in social studies because it impacts a lot of understanding of how different countries work and then a lot of the wars that happen as a result and acquisitions thereof. So it's put under the overarching concept of foreign policy. And it does have a significant contrast in that relation of isolationism. Isolationism was a foreign policy where, particularly for the United States, we stayed unto ourselves, we ignored everybody else, and we were isolated. And similarly, China has had a long-standing foreign policy of isolationism as well. And then we have different characteristics to extract natural materials and resources, expansion of trade markets and exports, the expansion of the military to protect the financial and fiscal interests that they were trying to do. So people just didn't give away themselves. You know, when we think about the U.S. slave trade, or actually not the U.S., that started in with Portugal, Spain, and other U.S. European countries, excuse me, and was then continued in the United States. That was all financial, was exploiting people for economic interests. So they were, people and were considered material and resources that were then able to be extracted from Africa and brought over to the United States in the New World and put to service. And finally, the assertion of racial, cultural, linguistic superiority, that the idea of imperialists is that they have the right to do this. And in the United States, the idea was supported by the idea of manifest destiny. But it has continued to be supported by racial ideologies, by linguistic, English only policies, or in Latin America as Spanish, and then to the demeaning and decline of indigenous languages, for instance, or similarly with Australia to again British English, and to the detriment of indigenous languages there. So then imperialism, for some examples, we have our traditional European, and these are not all of them, examples of England, Spain, Portugal, France, etc., but including the United States as it annexed Puerto Rico, Guam, Hawaii, among others, and Japan and its invasions into China and then to other areas of the Southeast Asian. So imperialism is an important understanding of how global powers continue to interact both historically and currently. Hi, I'm Dr. Corinne Wickens, and this morning I'm going to be modeling the concept vocabulary tool, concept definition maps. Better. All right. Hey.
All right.
Managing.
Yeah.
It's really challenging when you're trying to model vocabulary strategies and you don't know the content.
Yeah.
Right now I'm looking at hydrogen bonding.
Oh, that sounds like a ride.
And then it's like so, and then I'm going to be doing point slope form.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Algebra.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it is what it is.
Anything I can help you with? I know I got those book scanners. Do you need any others? I have them in my car actually, so before I take off, I can bring them back.
Okay.
Put them in the box over here for you.
Probably, but before you leave, I will know. Because my goal is to finish up. I've got Frere model and concept definition out to do this morning.
Okay.
And then I'll be ready to. The next step is to do introduction. So it's like I was kind of glad that like, oh, actually there's 2 weeks
Two
of
modules. Yeah.
and
Modules in time.
I'm like, okay, that works because I spent, I think on Tuesday, 4 hours probably doing those 4 different tools
Wow.
for, with a minimum. I think I only did 2 examples with list group label, but all the others I did 3.
Wow.
So that, because I'm expecting this will be, I don't know what Zoe's doing with her math, science, English, social studies right now. But I'm expecting that these would be used then.
Yeah, there too.
Yeah.
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 And we'll be able to use it next semester.
Yeah, exactly. And I have no clue how, what PE will look like again next fall, but, I think that I'm going to continue with quizzes and have strategies and do a more hybrid model moving forward, kind of like the PE, the English social studies. But right now is getting these done.
What are you thinking of yellow dig moving forward?
My PE group is doing miserable with it.
Mine too. Some are like weeks late, and I said that's better than nothing because it's still aggregating your points, right?
So and I need to bring it up because I've got a kind of overarching first half PowerPoint that I need to finish as well.
Okay.
I'm going to use it with 714, the adolescent, the 2 doctor level classes I'm teaching in the spring.
Yeah.
But Zoe said her English social studies have been doing great with it, but
Awesome.
the PE, it didn't work at all.
Right, yeah, PE, that's.
And I feel I had never felt so disconnected from a class.
Yeah, I have like 3 or 4 students that weekly will ask a question or 2 on Remind, but then I'll put out a post like, hey, let me know if you have questions, everybody, right? And it's like crickets.
And it's not even it's like, so with the last one, I need to give more points to, is once you've done this uploaded, whichever it was, I don't even remember what it was at the moment, then send me a remind, and then I'm gonna add more points.
Right.
Oh, it was the concept circles over you doing theory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
how many people do you have contacted you about that? Yeah, same, like hardly anybody.
2 and it was like a couple of them was by email, not by remind. So I'm gonna have to figure out, and since we need to have a discussion after early next week, because once I get a tabulation, because I have like anywhere between 37.5 points in Yellow Dig and 125 points as far as the range.
Yeah.
And it's worth, it's 25% of the grade.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, do we just go ahead and stick and be hard asses and stick to, or we create an alternative assignment?
I figured I'd start curving or something like that.
Yeah, so you and I need to have a conversation about that one. And
also, have you started grading the interviews?
for 540 interview, oh no, you're talking about the content specialist interviews.
Yeah.
No, because those just came in and I got busy.
Yeah, I figured I'd wait till next week to maybe.
Well, I had hoped to start that. it's the
Yeah,
same way as
this
I've
is
always
taking up-
known is you can't teach and grade and build all at the same time.
Right. Different days of the week, even. I know that like I try to fit them all in the same day and I don't get anything done that way. So now I just have Wednesdays after this class, like I'm just gonna do grading or planning and then, do some other stuff the next day. Actually separating grading from planning also helps too, but I used to be able to do 5 essays a day as an English teacher. That used to get me through for each class.
Yeah.
But it's a lot different now. So now it's like, just make sure you grade 3 days a week and then you're okay. That's what I tell myself.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Just
Easier said than done.
yeah. Well, it's always easier than said than done. And it's not. And every semester, I try to create a plan to be able to, plan on this day, grade.
Yeah. Life gets in the way, student issues gets in the way,
Yeah.
technology issues get in the way. Yeah.
You name it.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, it sounds like maybe we can talk next week then too about the content specialist interviews.
yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
It's probably best to my whatever the Outlook is updated, so it might be just look at dates
Okay.
on there to go ahead and set something up based on your schedule.
Okay.
And I'm just like, just get it down on the calendar.
Yeah, pretty much any day next week during the day works for me. So.
Then just as I said, go to Outlook. Do you know how to do the scheduling assistant?
No.
All right, come here. It's still recording. Freaking